"Captain, do you have a moment?" Henderson asked quietly, concern clearly present in his eyes. "It's Levi. He's not doing too hot." I sighed, still not sure what to make of the situation. He'd been out of it for the past 24 hours, and Mission Control hadn't yet been informed regarding his status. "Let's talk to him again," I suggested. I glanced out through the window, staring down at Earth's brilliant blue shine below. We were more than 500 kilometers up in the atmosphere, and should a medical emergency arise, we weren't equipped to handle it. But notifying our superiors would mean a premature end to our journey. It wasn't a choice I would make lightly. With no one back on Earth even aware of our covert mission, we couldn't afford a do-over. We pushed our way through the station, floating around corners towards our bedchambers at the station's rear end. Levi had been confined to his room since he started displaying symptoms, but in spite of his poor mental state, he had not yet made an attempt to leave his room. He sat against the wall, sobbing quietly, not taking the time to acknowledge our presence. "Levi, how are you holding up?" I asked as comfortingly as I could. "We have to find her. She has to be out there." "She's not gone," he mumbled to himself. "Find whom?" I asked. "Why are you pretending like you don't know?" he went on. "Carrie is out there. She needs us." I glanced over at Henderson. We shared a confused expression before redirecting our attention back to Levi. His eyes were bloodshot, heavy bags lining their underside. Even under heavy sedation, he hadn't slept a single minute. "Levi," I began, "there is no Carrie. There's just the four of us here, and we haven't had an EVA in over a week. There's no one outside. There can't be." "How can you say that? How can you look me in the eyes and pretend like you don't know?" It was a discussion we'd had on more than one occasion in the past day. Repeating it would only serve to exhaust all of us. And, getting increasingly worried by the minute, we excused ourselves and locked him back inside his room. Though stuck in his bizarre delusion, Levi made no attempt to resist his confinement. We returned to the bridge, where Adriana Lowe was waiting for orders on what to do next. "What do you think?" I asked. "Mental break," Henderson suggested. "I just don't know what set it off." "What about a tumor? Neurological disorder?" Lowe asked. "The company put us through a barrage of medical tests, including an MRI. Unless he grew a brain tumor in the past 2 weeks, that ain't it," Henderson replied. "It's only been a day, and—" Henderson was interrupted mid-sentence by a bang reverberating throughout the station, appearing to originate from the outer hull. "What the hell was that? Did we just get his by something?" Lowe asked. "Not a chance. Anything up here would have torn through the exterior," I replied. "Check the computer. Confirm that nothing's malfunctioning." Lowe pulled herself over to the control panel and started performing a systems check. Though no alarms had been triggered, there were a handful of non-emergency errors, enough to prompt a worried expression on Lowe's face. "Captain, we got a problem." Already by her side, I started reading over the alerts. "We've lost contact with the TDRS?" I half-asked, half-stated. "I can't realign the antennas. Only 4 of 6 are even operational. We can't contact Mission Control," she said. "I don't understand," Henderson began. "Didn't Levi check this yesterday?" "It's just a minor power failure, isolated to the communications array. Probably a blown circuit," Lowe explained. "That's the bang we heard?" I asked. "Wouldn't have been that loud. None of the alarms went off either, so no fire," Lowe went on. "What do you suggest?" "Not sure yet. We just have to find the damage. I'm sure Levi was working on the solar array electrical supply yesterday. In his state of mind, he could have easily crossed some wires since they run through the same sections as the antennae," Henderson suggested. "I'll get the repair logs," I said. "Lowe, have a look at the wires in the meantime." Grabbing the repair logs, I started flipping through the handwritten pages, looking for the last entry. All of us had taken our turn maintaining the systems during our 2-week tenure aboard the station. Mostly 1 or 2 sentences to confirm that everything was in order. I didn't even need to check the signature, seeing as I had become well acquainted with our team's handwriting during our several years of training. Henderson's, Lowe's, Levi's, my own, but an entry by a 5th unknown person caught my eye with loopy handwriting and an unintelligible signature. It was an entry by a person not stationed aboard the CSS. But before I could examine the entry any further, a loud knock was heard, as if something had slammed against the station's exterior. The sound was loud enough to garner the attention of our entire team, but none could come up with a plausible explanation of what had caused it, until the sound repeated, and Henderson had an idea. "Lo, you said 2 of the antennae were non-operational?" She nodded. "The way they were installed, it's mostly clinging to the station by the cables running them. It's possible the base detached, causing them to dangle around and periodically slam against the hull." We waited as the sound repeated, coming from approximately the same spot. Henderson could be right, and it meant fixing the problem would require a session of extravehicular activity. "Don't worry, I'll go outside and fix it," Henderson said, as if he could read our minds. "An unauthorized EVA session? Mission Control won't be happy," Lowe chimed in. "How are you planning to contact them to ask permission?" "Captain Foley is in charge. He can make the call," Henderson replied as he gestured towards me. I could only nod in agreement. "We don't exactly have another choice." "Right, let's get to it then," Henderson said as he started heading for the airlock. We accompanied him to the inner hatch with its preparation chamber equipped with spacesuits and tools. He quickly got dressed and entered the airlock, hesitating for but a moment to glance back at the 3 remaining suits. "There's only 4 suits in total," he pointed out. "There's only 4 of us here," Lowe said. "Still 5 bed chambers. Even if the station isn't manned to max capacity, there should be 1 suit per bed." "I can't remember there being more than 4, I said. "Does it matter?" "I'm not sure," Henderson said, but he ultimately decided it wasn't worth the time it took to discuss it. He closed the inner hatch to the airlock behind him and attached himself to the EVA safety line. If he was right about the antenna, it wouldn't be a hard task to reattach it to its base. He quickly climbed to the top side of the station and called in via radio to relay his findings. "I see 2 broken antennae," he said, "but they're just broken and bent, not detached from the base." "Can you clarify?" "I mean, the noises we heard, it couldn't have come from the damaged antennae. It looks more like something tried to rip it out. There's no impact damage." "Can you repair it?" "Yeah, absolutely. Give me 30 minutes. Have Lowe look at the wiring in the meantime. There's bound to be some damage to that as well." "I'm on it," Lowe said, allowing me to stay on the line with Henderson. "It's weird though. There's nothing out here that could explain the damage, nor the banging sound. It must be coming from inside," Henderson said. "Inside? How do you figure that?" "Could be a fault with the pipes," he said. "Or maybe someone moved into the walls." He chuckled at the last quip, but I could tell he was nervous about the situation. We tried to stick to small talk to ease the tension, but Henderson had to keep his mind focused, and I didn't want to distract him from the task at hand with conspiracy theories. Still, my mind kept reverting back to the handwritten entry in the repair log, written by someone not present on the ship, though clearly dated more than a week after we arrived in space. "Captain, I know you're thinking about the repair log. I could tell you noticed the aberrant entry. I saw it too. I wanted to say something earlier, but I wasn't sure what to make of it." "Did you recognize the signature?" I asked. "No, but it made me think," Henderson began, only to stop dead in his tracks. "Henderson?" He remained silent until I repeated his name over the radio. "I think I see something," he explained. "Yeah, there's definitely something outside. It's moving." "What do you see?" I asked, not yet understanding the gravity of the situation. "It's just like a weird silhouette. It's hard to say. It's too far away. It's definitely moving though. Shit, it's getting closer. Jesus Christ, it's alive. Get me out. Henderson?" I near yelled into the radio. "Henderson, respond." Another few seconds of radio silence, but Henderson wouldn't respond. I kept calling for him, loud enough to catch the attention of the remaining crew. Lowe came rushing back to my position, startled by the ruckus. "What's going on?" she asked as she saw me gripping the radio with all my might. "Henderson, he saw something outside. I think he—" I tried to explain before Lowe cut me off. "Henderson? Who the hell is Henderson?" "Why what?" I stuttered, confused. "Why are you roaming around the airlock anyway? There's no EVA plan for the day. We need to keep focused and fix the damn circuit so we can re-establish communication with Mission Control. You were just here 15 minutes ago. You saw Henderson exit the station." I desperately tried to explain. Listen, Captain, I know it's been a hard couple of days, but every crew member on board Salus is still inside. Levi is resting, and we're here. There were 4 of us, I went on. I think I would have noticed a 4th member, she argued, unreceptive to my information. But if you're starting to act like Levi, I'm going to have to lock you inside your bedchamber too. No. Look at this, I said as I handed her the repair logs. There are entries by 5 different people. But you just said there were 4 of us. Yes, and Levi remembers a 5th. Something is obviously wrong here, and I know it has something to do with whatever Henderson saw outside. As if interrupted by divine intervention, another loud knock reverberated throughout the station as if to support my theory. Whatever is outside is knocking on the outer hull. It knows we're in here. Lo stared at the ceiling, then at the logbook, inspecting the different entries. Though she wasn't entirely convinced there had ever been more than the 3 of us aboard the station, she was wise enough to understand that something wasn't right. So, what do we do, she asked. Henderson might still be alive. I need to go outside and... No, you're not setting a single fucking foot outside. If you're right, if Henderson even existed, whatever took or killed him is just waiting for a chance to get inside. We need to repair the busted circuit and contact Mission Control, and I can't do that alone. I need you to reboot the system as I check the wires. I could only nod in agreement. As much as I worried about our colleague, it was the only correct course of action. We were in way over our heads and would need the support of Mission Control. Do you know where the damage is? I asked. All the way in the back, which means we're going to have to stay in touch via radio. I'll call you from the bridge then. We split up at the midsection. I headed to the front, she to the back. At the bridge, I checked through the error messages again, which were all as unspecific as they were unhelpful. But a reboot was still in order. Sometimes turning a system off and on was the proper course of action, even on board a state-of-the-art space station. Lo, are you at the site of damage? I asked over the radio. Yes, I just arrived, but I realized something. There are 5 beds. Yeah, there always have been, I responded, recalling how Henderson had already pointed out that same fact earlier. You don't understand. They've all been used recently. It doesn't add up. Do you think Levi? She trailed off. I'm still not entirely sure what to believe, but I don't think he's crazy. We'll discuss it as soon as the repairs are done. Get it done, I said. For the next 20 minutes, I worked on troubleshooting the system, checking for specific errors as Lo fixed the wiring and broken circuits. Things were going smoothly until we were interrupted by 3 consecutive knocks, coming from Lo's side of the station. Did you hear that? She asked. It sounded like it came from your end. Yeah, I think I see movement through the window. I'm gonna check it out. Lo, wait, stay on task. Don't worry, I'm not going outside. I'm just gonna have a peek through the window. She went silent for a few moments before calling, startled by whatever she was looking at. There's something outside. I don't even know how to... Her voice faded. What do you see? It's completely charred, doesn't have a face. It's like a wait, I think it saw me. No, this can't be possible. Lo! I called, but she was already gone. I let the system reboot on its own and rushed for the rear of the station. She'd been in the middle of the final repairs as the thuds were heard, but she had seemingly just vanished from existence. Lo, please answer me, I yelled, but there was no one left who could listen. I searched every inch of the station to no avail, eventually finishing at Levi's locked bedchamber. He was still inside, seemingly oblivious to the horrors going on around him, but the panicked look on my face told him all he needed to know. What he had warned us about for the past 24 hours had come to pass, but it brought him no sense of satisfaction. It happened again, didn't it? He asked. Lo is gone. I let out in a pathetic whimper. I'm sorry. I can't even remember who they were, but I can feel the pain of their absence. I try to think back, but my memory had turned hazy. Though I could remember Lo vanishing mere minutes ago, I could only distantly remember the man who vanished during his EVA session. I couldn't even recall his name without straining my mind. If you get distracted for even a second, you'll forget them. What about? I paused to think, unable to readily recall the loss he'd told us about. What about Carrie? I feel her slip from my mind as soon as I let myself get distracted. But I won't forget her. I can't, he whimpered. That thing outside, it's not going to give up. It's going to get us all. What is it, the thing? I asked. I don't know, but I think that once you've seen it, it's already too late. I thought back to Lo, how she had described the creature moments before she was taken, and how Henderson had seen it during his EVA. We need to inform Mission Control. We can't let this thing win, I explained. Levi seemed uninterested in beating the entity clinging to our station, but I wasn't yet ready to give up. I rushed to the damage section, knowing that Lo had been moments away from finishing up her repairs. What remained was a quick fix, and no sooner had it been completed than another 3 knocks reverberated through the station. I tried my best to ignore it, not daring to check outside the windows. It didn't matter. We had re-established contact with Earth, with our home. Then I noticed Levi heading for the airlock. Before I could even register what he was about to do, he locked himself inside without donning an EVA suit. Levi, what are you doing? I asked as I pulled myself towards the inner hatch. I'm finishing things on my own terms. No, don't do this. Come on, please. It's only a matter of time before it gets us, too. We'll be fine if we just stay inside. We don't have to give up. It doesn't matter what we do. I can already hear it talking to us. It's learning from its victims. The more it takes, the more human it becomes. I can hear it whisper, using a voice I love. I want to go out while I can still tell the difference. Levi, please. But he had no intention of listening and opened the outer hatch without a suit, nor being attached to a tether. He was pulled out into the darkness of space, his body left to float until he inevitably got pulled in by Earth's atmosphere, where he'd effectively be cremated. To him, that was a kinder fate than meeting whatever creature waited outside. Letting the shock wash over me for no more than 10 seconds, I rushed to the bridge, where I could finally establish contact with Mission Control. This is Captain Foley reporting. We have had an incident on board the CSS. There have been multiple casualties. Please advise. A reply dug itself through the static, a worried-sounding man who had clearly not expected to hear from me.
What do you mean casualties? How many? What happened?
The voice called from the other end. I'm not sure, at least 3, maybe 4. I responded as honestly as I could.
Wait, 4?
The voice asked.
Are you alone?
Yes.
Are you secure? What happened out there?
The voice asked, pressing for as much information as possible. It's Fermi event, I said. I'm not exactly sure what we're dealing with.
A Fermi event?
He asked.
Are you certain?
I think so, yes. What course of action do you recommend? The line went silent for a moment. When the man began to talk again, the concern in his voice had been replaced by hostile suspicion.
I'm going to need you to answer a few questions, beginning with your full name, rank, and date of birth.
They were trying to determine if I was who I said I was. While it was standard protocol in the case of a Fermi event, it didn't comfort me. My name is Brandon Foley. I am the captain on board the Salis space station. I was born on. I explained before getting cut off by the all-too-familiar knocks, cutting me off.
Captain Foley, please continue.
Hold on, I ordered, because with the knocks there had come a second sound, a voice calling through the airlock radio, one that was very familiar. Captain, I need you, the voice said calmly.
Captain Foley, what was that sound?
I think there's someone still outside. I explained, my mind feeling hazy, the memories of my fallen crew member fading from memory.
Captain, you do not answer that call. No one is to be led into the station.
The radio operator ordered. Please let me in. The voice continued, still calm.
Captain, this is an order. Stay on the line.
But no sooner had I heard the voice of Carrie Linden, did I feel compelled to open the hatch and let her in. After all, she'd only been outside on a routine repair task, and she was the only other person on board Salis. We'd trained alone, journey into space alone, and now we were the sole 2 people responsible for ensuring the mission didn't fail. The radio operator in the background kept yelling orders at me, but his voice was distant and unimportant. Carrie was all that mattered. Captain, can you hear me? It's cold out here, Carrie said. I headed for the airlock, but she was nowhere in sight. Still, her voice was emerging from the intercom. I can't see you, I said. Just open the outer hatch. I'll be right there. The voice emerging from the radio at the bridge was barely intelligible. I could only just make out a few names he kept calling for. Henderson Lowe, Levi, all people I'd never met. I only had one partner, and she would have been trapped in the vacuum of space if not for me. Not needing her to ask again, I pulled the lever to open the outer hatch. I would not have to be alone anymore.